Baltic Avenue, once resurfacing is done, we will be adding speed tables, which has been a long requested amenity to calm traffic on Baltic. So more to come on that. I'm just very grateful to the Division of Water Pollution Control and the Division of Water. Oh, and excuse me, I had that reversed. Once Water Pollution Control's project is done, we'll be resurfacing. So want to thank the Division of Water and the Division of Water Pollution Control for guiding us through these two projects tonight, and really appreciate this investment in our neighborhood. And I think just for those who I haven't met, I'm Jenny Spencer, and I serve the Edgewater neighborhood on Cleveland City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spencer. I'm Brenda Culler, and I am pulling up my presentation. Sandra, I think I have taken control over from you. Can you confirm you can see the slides?
Yes, I can see the slides.
And it's in slideshow mode?
Yes.
Fabulous. So Baltic area lead service line replacement work, what you see on the screen here is what our contractors see when they're doing work in this street to identify service line material. I'll go through today's presentation kind of rapidly, but open to any questions that you might have at the end. So Cleveland Water meets all safe drinking water act requirements and has for more than 30 years. We just recently finished compliance sampling system-wide, and it shows our water remains to be well below the 5 parts per billion limit on lead. So what we've been doing, though, is Cleveland Water has been very proactive at trying to get bipartisan infrastructure legislation funding to take out lead service lines in communities that have the most lead service lines, such as the city of Cleveland. We started this work a couple years ago in terms of the planning and obtaining the federal funding, which is portion of loan and portion of grant. And we actually started replacement work in August of 2023. So in terms of service lines, we realized during the project that a lot of people are unfamiliar with water infrastructure. Water mains are below every single road in the Cuyahoga County, and most of those water mains belong to the city of Cleveland Water. But a service line is what connects the water main beneath the street to your home. The service line is divided to various types of material, and we are now required by federal law to investigate the material types and take note of it and record this and put it on public-facing maps. So the city-owned portion of the service line is marked A. We are investigating lead connections on your street because we think that is lead. The B portion is what comes into your house. You see this customer service line marked B when we do an investigation in the street. And C is what comes in your house before the water meter. Traditionally, about 99.9% B and C are the same material, and most of that material is copper. Some customers do have a vault meter where the water meter is not in their house and it vaults in the street. We do address those individually, but in general, what we're trying to find is what's on either side of that curb stop connection so we can replace lead when it is found. Where is the lead? These lead service lines could be on pre-1954 original water main installs or customers' homes that were built before 1954. Sometimes water mains were laid in the ground and connections on the city side were made many years to even decades before the homes were constructed. And so that's why we don't always have similar material on either side of the connection. Lead service lines were used primarily at residential connections and small commercial because the connection size is 1 inch or smaller in size. Cleveland has a lot of lead service lines, and we're working very hard to plan with the city of Cleveland officials for their removal. And the Ward 15 in Cleveland, if it were its own city, it would be in the top 20 communities that have the number of service lines. So we're very excited that Councilwoman Spencer is supportive of our initiative to take out lead service lines in her ward. The map, which was on the flyer delivered to your home, is the one presented here on the screen. It outlines the lead service line replacement work area in red, the water pollution control placement work area with the green dotted lines inside of that. And in terms of the lead service line replacement work, there's approximately 125 connections in our work zone that could have lead on the city side. Of those connections, about 80%, the investigations have complete and we know what the material it is, and about 50% of the work to replace lead is complete at this time. It'll probably be another 3 to 4 weeks before our work has wrapped up in terms of taking out the lead service lines. And later on this evening, water pollution control staff will go over their portion of the work. In terms of materials that you've probably seen at your house or you will be seeing, are our welcome and outreach letters. These are after much planning and communication with you. And if your lead service line has been removed, you've gotten a purple door notice like the one shown on the screen that has a check mark beside lead removed. And then you also will get flushing instructions on how to remove and clean your aerators. These are just part of our communications plan that our small lead team here at Cleveland Water is going to be implementing it every single connection that is lead over the next 13 or so years. These notices, if you have residents or friends that don't live in Baltic area but could have a lead service line, they may have gotten a letter from Cleveland Water recently that had a QR code inviting residents to scan that QR code to report their service line material. This is something that Cleveland Water needs and is encouraging residents to do. We have about 195,000 locations where we have to determine the material on the customer side. And that's presented on our new public facing map. Because you're in the Baltic Road area, the work to replace your lead service lines overlapped with the mailing of this annual notice, so you may have received both pieces of literature in the mail. We apologize for any confusion. Our work to replace lead service lines starts long before work that you see. We do try to perform test shuts and repair valves prior to lead service line work. Sometimes the valves break during the middle of the work and they'll be rode on the street for a short period of time. Our work also will sometimes open hydrants on your street. This is done when there is a water main break, and we will also take chlorine residuals, which are the small blue kits you see on the screen, to test them. The staff in this picture are the new lead service line field staff that were trained in August 2023, and many of these young new staffers are still on the job working. They're actually consultants, but we consider them part of the Cleveland Water family. What you'll see before construction hours and after construction hours and on the weekends is basically pieces of wood with orange barrels on top. These are the curb stop locations and where the material will be investigated. Material is investigated with a hydro excavation, which squirts water under pressure into the hole to remove the soil. And then the suction hose vacuums up the soil until the depth of the service connection. And at that time, the other way is using a backhoe to dig around the connection. If you have a concrete driveway, that's where your curb stop is located, we do have to dig that up with concrete. It takes a little longer. What customers see when during lead service line replacement depends on what contractor is assigned to the street. Terrace Construction is assigned to the Baltic Road neighborhood. The contractor on the screen is a different contractor, but there's lots of moving parts between dump trucks and backhoes and operators and staff running around trying to get the job done efficiently. Typical city-owned lead service line replacements have two excavations. One is right adjacent to the curb that's above the water main. That's the one in the street. And then there's going to be one excavation in the tree lawn. These two connections will take out the city-owned lead. These is called a short side connection because it's closer to where the water main is. If you're on the opposite side of the street from the fire hydrants, you have a long side connection. But this same hole in the street will be used to replace your water service connection. 91% of customers in Cleveland have copper on the customer side, and we do not have to do work at your home. That pattern is pretty much holding true for the Baltic area neighborhood, where on Baltic Road itself, I think we only had 2 customers that had lead connections that needed replaced. As part of our program and as part of the federal requirement, customers who have galvanized steel downstream of a lead service line, we are also replacing those connections. Currently, that's at no cost to Cleveland Water customers, and we hope to continue that pattern. If there is something in the customer's home, such as that's makes it unsafe for our contractors to do the work, we'll advise the customer of the thing that needs corrected. And then when they make that correction, we will replace the customer-owned lead service line at that time. A question we often get is, how is this done and what's it going to look like? There's 3 different ways, and we always choose the least invasive way possible. So one is called molding. The drill bit on the right is used to cut about 3.5-inch diameter hole right above the foundation wall. And that A mole is run through it out to the street, and then the copper connection is pulled from inside the house out to where the water main is at the curb stop, and that's connected. Another method is called directional drilling. This method is not being used on your neighborhood, but some of your friends who live in Councilwoman Spencer's ward may experience this in coming years. And this is a small machine that sits sideways across the road, and it literally drills a hole underground to run the new connection through. That drill bit will come up in the customer's basement. The advantage to this is sometimes if the water meter's not at the facing wall, we can literally go under the foundation and not have to move the meter in it. But if we do have to move the meter, we will reconnect all the customer's plumbing. And of course, that's work that our contractors will do at no direct cost to the customers. This copper line is then pulled out through the ground, underneath the ground, without disturbing most of the tree lawn soil, as you can see in this video. That's the copper line being pulled through the ground. The copper is kept safe inside because the ends are taped shut. The only time we have to open trench is if there's some type of underground obstruction that prevents us from doing the molding or the directional drilling. Most of the city of Cleveland has very good soil, and we can directionally drill or mold. Some other customers in other cities have shale, sandstone, and glacial erratics that make it very challenging. However, the previous photo was an open trench, and this photo was literally taken about 3 hours later after the work was done to level the tree lawn. If settling of this occurs, we'll come back and add more topsoil on top to make sure that customers' tree lawn is eventually restored. It does take a little time. One of the things that we're very cognizant of is trees. We want to save as many trees as we possibly can. Prior to lead service line work starting, we do take pictures up and down the street to document what is there so we can replace anything that our work impacts, but also so we don't replace things that weren't damaged by us. The tree in this picture has some damage. We'll send photo like this over to the City of Cleveland's Urban Forestry Department to get their input on what should be done with this tree. We're going to avoid it, but just so that they know. If we do a hydro excavation and the curb stop shows lead, we're going to not replace the connection right by those tap roots. We're going to reroute that connection on the city side. Sometimes we find interesting trees in tree lawns. And if it was a tree lawn like this, we've not had to replace a connection with a root flare this big, but that would sure be an interesting challenge. After the lead service line replacement work is done, before any water use in the home, we encourage customers to flush their full house plumbing, following the instructions provided, and after 30 days, you can call us and request a water sample kit be dropped off at your home. If for some reason we replace the city-owned connection at the same time that replace the customer-owned connection, we're going to leave you a water filter that's certified to remove lead, as well as instructions on how to use it and answer any questions that you may have. We also do the restoration of surface areas. Work areas have sand bedded around our infrastructure, and then they're tamped in lifts, so it helps improve settling speed. Our contractors will also come back and restore any sidewalks and curbs that our work impacts. As you can see in this photo, areas that our work impacts, those got brand new concrete because we had to take out the concrete sidewalks there. Areas that our work doesn't touch, we will not be replacing that infrastructure. For the Baltic Road project, because water pollution control work will be done after ours, we're not doing the asphalt at the surface. We will be leaving concrete at the surface. In some other instances, prior to the concrete being laid, there might be gravel, which is called 304 gravel at the surface, until the contractor comes back and pours the concrete. The concrete patches will look similar to the photo that you see now until the asphalt is laid, but WPC's work will also be part of that process. And I apologize, I don't have a photo of what that looks like. We have done some partnership projects with WPC in the past 12 months. Finally, grass seed restoration. Because we are entering the traditional colder months of the year, our contractors may plant grass seed, which may or may not grow depending on November. Current soil temperatures are still warm enough to allow grass seed to sprout and germinate, so we are still attempting to plant grass seeds, but we do want you to know we'll check back on those streets in the spring and make sure everything that needs restored is restored. If you as a customer see settling of an unusual nature, we do encourage you to send us photos if you are able, or just call us and let us know. There's two types of settling. The the picture in the middle of your screen shows a level settling where it's just depression. We do send contractors back to level that off. This is not an emergency type of event where no, it's not a trip or fall hazard, or someone's not going to get injured if they accidentally step in that. It's just one of the things we will restore. The photo on the right, I would consider this a trip hazard or a fall hazard, where we would tell the contractors to go back that day, if at all possible, or the next within 24 hours to fill in that hole, because someone could trip, fall, and injure themselves on it. If you send photos in, we try to check those every business day. We do include your name and phone number so we can reach back out to you and know that it's being addressed. We also want to encourage customers not to drive on tree lawns or cause damage once we restore the tree lawn, because our staff is limited in what we can do, and we want to make sure the infrastructure that we put in place remains there. And we also want to make sure that if you have trash cans and recycle bins, don't put those on the newly restored tree lawn area, because that can impact the grass seed germination. I thank you for your time. My contact information is on the screen. It was also on the flyer. If you do have questions, I encourage you to reach out to myself or the Cleveland Water team here, because together we want to make sure you have the confidence in our great tasting, delicious water at your tap. With that.
Thank you, Brenda. Before I introduce water pollution control, I'll mention that questions can be typed in the chat for response prior to the close of the meeting. And with that, I introduce Cecilia from Water Pollution Control.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can.
Could you put the flyer back up for me? Thank
Yeah.
you. So good evening, everybody. My name is Cecilia Mazie. I am an engineer with the Division of Water Pollution Control, and I am managing the sewer construction project in the Baltic Road area. As Brenda mentioned, WPC's limits of sewer work are outlined on this flyer in green. So we're working on Baltic Road. We're working on West 102, sorry. And we are also going to be working on West 103 and Nanford Road. We will be upsizing the main sewers. We also will be replacing manholes and catch basins and a portion of the sewer connection within the trench. Service will not be interrupted, or you won't have any issues with your service. You can keep washing and using the bathroom and keep running water. It's not a problem during the project. When the contractor has completed all work within the trench, we will then asphalt the roadways within the limits from curb to curb. There may be a point where the contractor's done with the sewer work and the asphalt plants aren't open yet, so there will be temporary pavement placed until they can come back and do the final work. The start of this project at this time is scheduled for the beginning of January, but we will be sending out letters from Water Pollution Control with all the pertinent information and my contact information when we have that finalized with the contractor here soon. And really, that's my discussion for you guys in a nutshell.
Thank you. I'm checking the chat for questions and not seeing any. So I want to thank everyone who joined
No,
us.
there was a question. Hi, Brenda. So sorry, there was a question. And also, can people unmute themselves to ask questions or only put them in the chat?
If they raise their hands, I can unmute them.
Okay, so I think there might, let's give it a moment for people to, there are some questions coming in through the chat, or if people would like to use the raise hand feature, they may do so, and then Brenda can call on you. Let me just also take a moment to thank both Brenda and Cecilia for presenting to us. Cecilia, let me just quickly start it off with one question. Thank you for affirming that letters will go out. I didn't know that letters would go out, and that's great. How long will the project last? If it starts, anticipated to start in January, how long will it take to complete the entire Baltic Road area project?
The estimated completion is 3 to 4 months. However, I haven't officially met with the contractor yet, so I don't have their schedule, but I anticipate getting it within the next week. And so, but their plan was to start it and run it into the point where the asphalt plants are open for business so that there isn't a gap in time. But I have a feeling they might finish some of the work earlier than planned.
So I'm reading the questions in the chat, and the one is from Juliana. Juliana, encourage you to call me. I'm going to put that phone number just to you in the chat. And we can make arrangements for your special work conditions because completely understand where you're coming from. Additionally, what we want residents to know is the whole entire street may not be taken up with parking. So if you're on, for instance, Baltic Avenue, most of those lead service sign replacements are done. You can park on Baltic Avenue when we're done working there. You'll be able to see where the vehicles need to be to do the work. And then once they're done with that section, they progress down the street or streets. Anyone in your neighborhood that may have needs special accommodations for whatever read, we will make them with you and for you. It's easier to do those on a one-on-one basis. If a resident doesn't have a driveway and they need to do street parking, once again, we can advise you of our contractor schedule and where the best locations to park are at. We do know that there are streets that have very little parking, but we also have a federal mandate to replace lead service connections on these streets. And it's been a very great experience working with water pollution control to create a partnership where we can do a lot of different layers of infrastructure work all at the same time to cause the least amount of long-term disruption to the residents. So another question.
What, Brenda, sorry, really quick. Can
Yeah.
I piggyback off of what you said? Just same
Yeah.
sort of idea with the sewer project. We don't plan on keeping people off of the road. There may be times where you have to wait to get in or out of your driveway. If the contractor happens to be working in front or has a truck, we, WPC, will have an inspector on site. We will do our best to get them moved so you can get in or out. And then again, at the end of the day, end of the workday, the contractor will be off-site and you will be able to access in and out of your driveway.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely.
Cecilia, may I clarify, there are some residents who do not have driveways and they rely on the ability to park on the street. So during the course of the water pollution control sewer project that's starting in January and is expected to last for 3 to 4 months, what can residents who only have on-street parking do? Are they allowed to park on the street after work hours?
So that should not be a problem. They should be able to find a spot on the street to park when they're not working. But again, my contact information is on this flyer. If anybody specifically would like to reach out to me, give me their address and talk to me, I have no problem discussing their information specifically with the contractor and the inspector on site so that we can work something out together.
And a lot of what you may notice is that the contractor terrace construction for the water line work, they use a lot of steel plates. What we do ask is that if you're relying on on-street parking, if there is an area blocked off with cones or in caution tape where to try to make it so you don't line your car up right with that to make it a squeeze play for other cars to get down the road. In work hours, generally, they get there around daylight and then they work till about 4 to 5 o'clock right now. And then another council, I'm reading questions right now, so bear with me. And Cecilia, I think this one is for you. The question is, when streets are resurfaced curb to curb, will the curbs themselves also be replaced or repaired?
So the curbs will only be replaced if they've been damaged or have to be removed for work such as a connection. If a connection has to be repaired or a catch basin's installed. But all of the curbs are not scheduled to be replaced. So again, only if they've been damaged by the contractor or we find that there was a damage that occurred at some point and it needs to be repaired.
And that is the same for our work. We do try to tie in the curbs that we need to replace into the existing curb height. Sometimes that's not always possible if the curb height has sunk too much. And then the other question from Mr. Nazer was, when will the recording of the meeting be available? The recording of this meeting will be on the YouTube channels. I believe it'll be on both Cleveland Water and WPC's YouTube channels. And that may take a day for our IT staff to get that up, but it will be up there.
I would like to go back and address the end of the one question. I'm sorry, I don't know whose name it is, but they asked why all 4 surrounding streets need to be done at the same time. If that's for water pollution control, they won't be done at the same time. They'll do 1 street at a time. So just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, and that's the same for our work. We have to get our work done before WPC streets, and since the sewers are connected, they're doing that as well. Sometimes you may see contractors on a street and then they're gone for a day or two. It's because we're waiting on customers to get customer side replacement agreements in place so the work can be scheduled, or in the contrary, the contractor working on your street got pulled away and had to go to a customer side replacement agreement that just came in on a different street. All of our staff, all the foreman crews that for our contractors, sometimes they do need a day off or get sick or have those personal adjustments. So we are working through this as quickly as we can to cause you the least inconvenience. And then
There's one
I
from
lost this.
A
The next,
about the sample test.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Sandra?
When RA is asking, when would we get the water sample test?
Water sample test. So if you want your water sampled, after the service line replacements, you call the lead inquiry line. It is the number listed on all of the information provided to you by Cleveland Water. We have about 5 to 7 staff members in the office that do our best to answer that during business hours. And then the laboratory staff at Cleveland Water will drop off a sampling kit to you. Water sampling post replacement, I'll be very honest, we've usually have non-detects in the water at all times. And so it's not necessary, but we understand if that's what you want for your own comfort level, by all means, give us a call.
Traffic that often turns onto 103rd from Clifton during morning and or evening rush hour to be redirected. So
if that's directed to the sewer department at this time, I don't have the contractor's traffic schedule, so I am unaware of any plans to redirect traffic at this time. But
yeah,
that person can, again, the person, Melanie, you have my information. If you want to reach out to me or give your information to Sandra, I can reach out to you when I know that information. Brenda, did you see the driveway question?
David Norris.
Looks like a house. Let me look up your address, and I'm looking it up right now. So your address at one is for the person initials Ann. Your water service connection comes off Clifton Boulevard, and that is not in this work zone. Everyone that has a possible lead service line will get it replaced, but we have to work. We have to plan that work across our system. Like 195,000 locations could have lead service lines. So we are planning with council people and with other utilities to do that work in the most efficient way possible.
And I just want to make sure David's question was answered.
David, yes, David, whether it's Cleveland Water work, and Cecilia, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe it's for WPC work as well. If our work impacts your curb, your sidewalk, your driveway, your tree lawn, or even your yard, we require photo documentation of before and after conditions, and we restore what is there, or restore what was there. If we have to take out a portion of your driveway apron, we'll replace the entire panel.
Okay, I think we got answered questions from Julianne, David, RA, Joe, Ann, and Melanie.
And then David has to follow up, but when the driveway aprons, when they pour the concrete for the sidewalks, curbs and aprons, they'll do that at the same time. The contractors, because they need to be cost effective with their cement trucks, they're not going to pour one driveway at a time. They'll do the work on the street, get enough scheduled so they can have a full truckload of concrete or trucks loads of concrete, because the people who drive the dump trucks are one person, but the people who are there to make the forms and spread the concrete, that's another crew. They can only be so many places at once. And that should be I don't know specific what your address is. Typically that's within about 20 days of when the actual work was done. That also depends on weather, because you can't pour concrete in the rain.
Brenda and Cecilia, if I may, I'm going to add one more bit of nuance. I don't know if there's anything further in the chat, and I don't see hands raised. I'm so grateful for this flyer and this clear delineation of project boundaries. The map is really helpful. This is a very small nuance, but I wanted to share with the community that there is a portion of Baltic that is outlined in pink that would be subject to lead service line replacement, but it doesn't have the green dash, which means it's not going to have the sewer work. And typically there would not be the street resurfacing in that area because it's not part of the sewer work. I'm going to make sure that the council office supplements the street resurfacing so the entire stretch of Baltic between 110th and West Boulevard is resurfaced in one job, to make sure that it's the whole roadway is done. And I think to clarify the one question that was asked earlier about the expression curb to curb, that is really meant to delineate that this is not a patchwork resurfacing. So it's in the case of the water pollution control project, the sewer work, the entire roadway is resurfaced. It's not just where the digging happens or where the road surface is disturbed. But a resident did point out that some streets don't actually really have curbs, that just over time, the curb height has shrunk significantly or there's no visible curb. It is my understanding, and now having been in this office for 4 years, unfortunately, the city does not have a curb replacement program at this time. And I think that is disappointing to some folks. What makes me feel better about it is curb work is one of the worst culprits when it comes to tree damage. So although the city will be resurfacing the streets, the entire width of the streets after in the area outlined that you see on the map, there will not be new curbs poured. And again, some of that is actually beneficial to our tree canopy, but unfortunately the city does not have a citywide curb replacement program. So I wanted to clarify that point.
Councilwoman, can I just say one more thing? This is Cecilia. Just for when people are observing the construction, so I hope this is clear. You'll see a trench that they will be doing the main sewer work. They will installing pipe and manholes, as we said. That will then get filled back up with material, kind of like what Brenda was showing, I think, in her slides. And then the top of it will be concrete. Then what's going to happen is the existing asphalt that's on either side of the trench gets milled down or removed. And then the asphalt gets placed across like you said, the width of the street and the length of the limit. So if we were going to use like West 102 for an example, that would be, as you said, the width of the street, and then it would be from Baltic all the way to, oh my gosh, forgive me, what's the next road north? Edgewater.
Clifton.
Or
Clifton.
Sorry.
Clifton.
Yes. So that would be the limits. And anyway, I just hope that helps people understand, because you might see part of it done and then panic, but really it just has to get done in phases.
Yeah. And then I actually have a question for whoever is R period A. You can put this in the chat or you can, call or send us an email. You said concrete will need to dry. I'm sure there'll be instructions provided. They're currently not, but we can make that happen. Concrete typically needs about 48 hours to cure before it's hard. The full strength comes after about 28 days. In terms of vehicle traffic, the contractors will come back and remove the forms and the cones. It's definitely something that we can get for the future. I do not know if the contractor themselves leaves anything for that concrete. In the street, they'll leave it coned off or with a steel plate over top while the concrete is drying.
Okay. Oh. If everyone has had their questions answered and everyone is done presenting, we're going to work towards closing the meeting. Thank you again for joining us this evening. We very much appreciate your participation. And again, this meeting will be posted to WPC's YouTube channel and Cleveland Water's YouTube channel. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.